Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Gary Antuanne Russell and William Zepeda. Can they be outthrown? Now, right now in boxing, it's the kind of climate. If you have a fighter who's able to outthrow his opponent by 30 plus punches around, it's a good chance they win the fight. Hard being a judge when you're sitting there watching a fight and one guy's throwing 30, 40 more punches around than his opponent. And although they may be landing about the same, he's basically outworking his opponent. So when you're able to do that, there's a pretty good chance that you're probably going to win a decision. And there's a chance that something could get through and you could possibly hurt or stop your opponent. At the same time, if you're reckless with your offensive approach, your opponent could time you and line you up for something nice, and then you find yourself getting tranquilized. But the bottom line is when you have an opponent like a Gary Antuanne Russell or a guy like William Zepeda, when they're letting their hands go and they're throwing, 70, 80, 100, 130 punches around, that tends to paralyze their opponents. Now, of course, when you think about a fighter throwing upwards of, 90 or 100 punches around, that makes you wonder how they're able to do that, right? Because it's just not something you see every day. So a lot of fans tend to gravitate towards possibly some foul play. Somebody's on the cocktail, juicing, etc. But in Gary Antuanne Russell's case, I believe he's clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle. You see, when he fought Alberto Puello, he was throwing like 40, 48, 39 punches, 60 punches. His high of that fight was like 65 punches in a round. That's a lot, but that's not uncommon. Now, he did that against a fighter who was throwing like 33 to 50 punches around. So he did it against a fighter who was throwing shots back at him and was landing 18 to 37% of their shots. So Puello's offense, his timing, and his accuracy, I think that actually slowed down Gary Antuanne Russell. Because you saw when Gary Antuanne Russell came and he fought Jose Valenzuela El Rayo, he was throwing upwards of 90 punches around in some of those rounds. So his overall punch output increased by over 300 punches across all 12 rounds. 300 punch increase. Now, when you think about that, it does sound crazy. But you got to look at Gary Antuanne Russell and the fact that he's always been a guy who, if you're in front of him and you allow him to work, he's going to work and he's going to throw a lot of punches. Okay? But with him going forward, I just think in order for someone to beat him, they're going to have long arms. They're going to have, I would say, a moderate to high punch output and have good accuracy and some decent speed. If you have that, then you have a chance against Gary Antuanne Russell. If not, he's going to steamroll you. And he's going to just outthrow you. And when he's letting his hands go, you're going to be paralyzed in there because you're not going to get an opportunity to let anything go. And you're probably going to lose the fight. Now, William Zepeda, all right? Let me just say this. When I watch William Zepeda fight, like I'm blown away. I've always have been, because I'm like, damn, this guy throws so many punches. So I went from being a guy who admires him, like, yo, this dude here is a problem. He's in great shape, takes boxing serious. Boxing is his life. He gets in here and he just outworks his opponents. But then you hear people start talking about the pads and stuff like that. Now with me, I'm always open for a conspiracy theory and, hey, well, what if? Well, how about this? I never say that's a dumb idea or a dumb conversation. We just talk. Don't mean it's true. But the problem for Zepeda, I want to say this. There's no proof of anything about this man cheating, right? But when you hear that, like Tevin Farmer say, they were supposed to do pad testing and there ended up not being any testing, makes you wonder what the hell's going on. If you're supposed to have pad testing and you choose not to do the pad testing, that's going to force people to ask, well, why? Why is it you chose not to do it when it was in a contract? Anyway, I gotta wonder about Zepeda a little bit, but at the same time, there's no proof of any foul play, right? So you gotta give him credit. But what I will say is, when you look at a guy like Zepeda, Zepeda did some shit that blew my mind. This is Zepeda back in 2022 when he fought Diaz, right? Look at. Oh, let me scroll. Let me bring this down. Look at the punches thrown. Right here, this top row, Zepeda. This man threw. This is every round across 12 rounds, people. 107 punches, 143 punches, 151 punches, 136, 132, 125, 115, 133, 133, 125, 124, 112. Yeesh. That's crazy. And in all his fights, he's throwing damn near upwards to the 70 to 100 punches around. Okay? It could just be his conditioning and the way he trains. He trains to throw a lot of punches. And he just could be a freak of nature. Okay? Joe Calzaghe was another guy who would throw a lot of punches, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone throw. Like, I'll tell you what his average was. Where is it? Yeah, he was averaging 128 punches around. 128 punches around. That's crazy. This man was averaging 128 punches around. So when you got a guy who can work like that and has an engine like that, right? How do you beat him? Now, Tevin Farmer timed him and almost got him up out of there, right? Shocked everyone because most people felt Tevin Farmer, it just kind of dissipated into the air. Nobody was worried about Tevin Farmer anymore. Seems like he got his shit together, returns to the sport of boxing. They throw him in there with a Zepeda. Supposed to be an easy fight for Zepeda. Things don't really go that way. Now they have a rematch coming, is my understanding. So Tevin Farmer showed us something. One, could be that little tricky southpaw stance of his, but also you time him, catch and shoot, roll with his punches, but the bottom line is timing them and making sure that you're accurate, that you could disrupt everything that Zepeda is bringing to you towards you offensively. Now, that being said, going forward, who can beat these guys who are able to throw so many punches around? It's going to take a special fighter. When I take a look at the 135-pound division, a guy like Shakur Stevenson comes to mind when I think about Zepeda, because Shakur, part of me feels he'll get outworked. I even said I thought Zepeda would beat him, but to see that Tevin Farmer was able to, remain calm, stand in the middle of that damn the eye of the storm, and get some shots off tells me that if Farmer can do it, I'm not saying that means Shakur can do it, but Shakir's been doing that his whole career. So I think Shakur Stevenson would have a lot of success. But outside of Shakur Stevenson, some of these other guys, man, they have to be very careful because Shakur is very comfortable fighting in the pocket. He has good distance. He fights with his eyes, and he sees everything coming. So I think Shakur Stevenson would have a good chance. But even like a Gervonta Davis, after watching him this past weekend, I think Zepeda would beat Gervonta Davis, unless Davis lands a big shot. But if Gervonta Davis can't hurt Zepeda, Gervonta Davis could be in trouble. Keyshawn Davis could make for an interesting fight. He's looking really, really good, really special. He's not really getting hit. He's going to the body. But again, I'd like to see how Keyshawn Davis does against, a damn tornado like Zepeda. The Muratai is a monster. Andy Cruz, I think he's still he's looking like, as an amateur, he peaked. As a pro, I don't know how far he can go as a pro. And I'm just being real. And Baranchek, I don't think will stand a chance. But at 135, Zepeda, he's going to be a problem for everybody. Out of all of these fighters, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Tank has a chance, but I don't know. I don't know where Tank is mentally right now. You got to figure some things out. Stevenson, I think, will get him. But other than that, Zepeda, he can put some work in at 135. Now, up at 140, to be the guy like Gary Antuanne Russell, there's so much talent at 140 pounds, man. I'm not even going to sit here and try to act like Gary Antuanne Russell runs through everyone. But what I will tell you is some very, very interesting fights at 140 pounds for the WBA champion, Gary Antuanne Russell. And I would like to see him come and unify. The one thing about Gary Antuanne Russell I saw with El Rayo, he got hit with some clean shots. And in boxing, you're going to get hit. But it did look like he was hurt a couple times, but he's just resilient and was able to push through those challenging moments and continue to just beat down El Rayo. That being said, who can beat Gary Russell and William Zepeda when they're throwing on average 70, 80, and William Zepeda's case, 100 punches around? How do you beat them? I say timing, I say speed, I say accuracy, I say, you got to have balls, man. You got to be able to stand in there in the eye of the storm and look and see all the debris flying around you. And when you had that opening, shoot your shot. If not, they're going to overwhelm you and more than likely get a stoppage, definitely get a unanimous decision. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to Gary Antuanne Russell and his family, because that just hits home with me, man, to see the pops raise them boys from small as boxers and to see them out here still thriving based off the lessons the father imparted and share with them and the discipline that they've been able to cement. I just really respect that and I like that, especially because I have 4 sons. So there's certain things in boxing that shit hits home with me. For Zepeda, I don't know much about him except he seems to be a hard worker. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.